So I'll try and whiz through these fairly quickly. It's good to be back. It's good to see everyone here. It's been a busy show for us today, so it's been a positive show. It's been good. Today I wanted to talk a bit about what's happening in the scene, what's been going on in the community around the RISC OS Open site. I want to talk a little bit about our bounties and how they're progressing, and I'll give you an update on our plans for the future as well. So one of the things that we've been talking about for the last probably 12 months now is moving towards the next stable release of RISC OS, and that is RISC OS 5.24. There's only a couple of things outstanding now that are between us getting this finished. One new feature due, this is to do with NFS in Landman. I don't know if anyone knows about that. There's a few boring bugs that I could list, and there's one external dependency, and that's to do with Angular. So there's some work that we'd like to see happen in Angular. And once all that's done, we should be able to publish our next stable release. There's also various different people in the RISC OS community that use our distribution of RISC OS within their products, and we want to make sure that all of those have their own stable badge of approval. And we'll have an area on our website where we'll publish the state of each different platform and whether it's ready to run RISC OS 5.24. That's something we'll introduce sometime shortly before the release of this. Hopefully this year, although because we're voluntary staffed, we can't work at the rate that we always predict, so it could be a bit later on, maybe as late as the Southwest Show next year. So, bounty updates. These are the updates actually in progress. So, EDID was completed. It's in the Raspberry Pi release of RISC OS that's on our stand at the moment. So, if you download one of the release candidates of RISC OS, one of the beta releases, you'll have this EDID support, and that's the thing that allows RISC OS to go and speak directly to your monitor, figure out what resolution it is, and do the things that I was trying to do with Windows very badly just then. Paint, we've had some changes fed back from the Paint bounty that are now in RISC OS. They're also on the versions on our stand. So there's quite a lot of new features and enhancements going into our favourite bit mapping graphics program. And USB, there's almost that bounty is finished. There's just a few tiny tweaks needed, but that should be part of the stable release of 5.24 of RISC OS. So we still have some bounties open for donations. So there's one that's involving updating the network stack. Currently our network stack is about 20 years old, so it's pretty crusty. As you can imagine, especially things around SSL, which is the security part of networking that all websites tend to use nowadays. Our version of SSL support is hideously out of date, and I think most websites would reject connections using the SSL that's supported in RISC OS at the moment. We have 4 steps of bounties for this, and only the first step is currently open. I've got some news about that today, I'll share it in a minute. There's clipboard support in some of the desktop applications. We started with Edit and we're moving across to other applications. And the filing system updates, we completed the first stage of this, which was to support large files and various other tidy-ups. The next step is about understanding partitions, where you take a big hard disk and you can section it up, and improving the tools for formatting to handle partitions. So it's the second step, and it's quite a big step. So there's quite a lot in that bounty already, but it's not quite there yet. There's some stuff with the build tools, which is quite a technical one, but it's still popular with developers. That people have been gradually donating more and more into that. We want to support ARM v6 and v7 basically in our C compiler, and there's quite a lot of work that would have to happen under the hood to make that happen. USB stack, this is the final step of USB development. This is another piece of code that was based on a very old version of the software from around the turn of the century that's gradually being brought up to date, and it allows us to support things like CDC drivers. It's all quite technical, but USB is fundamental nowadays. Almost all hardware has USB connectors, so having a modern USB stack is important to any operating system. And there is a general bounty that allows us to just help support RISC OS. If you can't think of one of the bounties that means something to you, you can always donate something into the general bounty. So, one of the things, the recurring themes when we come to a show and we talk about our bounty scheme is people say, well, it's all right having a pot of money that you're collecting towards, where you want developers to potentially claim that bounty and do the development work, but it's hard to visualise if you're going to put £10 into a bounty. What's it trying to achieve? How much is it trying to? What is the tipping point before this is going to be claimed? And it's very difficult for us to estimate that number. So we can't say for the USB bounty you need to raise £5,000 or £200. We can't give a precise number precisely because we don't know who's going to do the work. And different people have a different idea of how much this is going to take to get them out of their chair and interested. So we have made an attempt at estimating how big each bounty should be. And what we've done is we've looked at how hard is a particular thing to do technically, how much learning curve do we think it has to get yourself from a normal generic developer into understanding the problem and being able to work on it. And quite often we look at how much of a mess is the thing in the first place that you have to untangle to make useful progress. We also asked ourselves, what hourly rate would you charge this at? Would you be some professional services company charging £1,500 a day? Probably not. So what we use is our burger flipping metric. So we say, if you worked at McDonald's, how much would they pay you? Then that is the hourly rate you can probably expect from a bounty. That's generous. So this is what we've done. We've said, if you're getting a minimum wage, we think the piece of work is about this big, then that gives us an indication of how much a bounty needs to get before it's likely to be claimed. With that in mind, the open bounties look like this. As of the 20th of October, this is how much we had accrued in these bounties, and this is what we feel they should probably need before someone's going to be interested in claiming them. And I've actually updated all the bounty pages, so the descriptions on our website of each bounty include the target or the guideline target. This is only an approximate guess. It might be that we have to go past that point before someone claims it. But it does give you some indication, a coarse indication, of where the bounty is. And we do, these are slightly informed guesses because for some of them we do know some people that are interested in working on them. So we have been able to prompt them and get them to give us an approximate number. And one thing I can say about this is the internet stack bounty has actually been completed as of this morning. It's now jumped up thanks to a donation from RISC OS Developments. So they said how much is left by your estimate, and they just wrote us a check for that. So that's a fantastic thing from them. So that bounty looks like it's reached the level where this person who behind the scenes is interested in doing it is going to claim it. So that's a really good step today. We've also had a community project that's nothing to do with bounties, but it is a way people can contribute. And it's a great non-technical thing because it's a book. So the RISC OS User Guide, this is a book that Acorn first published back in the 90s, and we're going through this gradually, rewriting it for the modern version of RISC OS. So lots has changed in the last 20 years or so, and we've got a set of people in the community that are contributing. They're either updating the chapters directly, they're just rewriting stuff, they're taking new screenshots for us, or they're just proofreading and sending us comments, or they're even writing kind of more low-level descriptions of how the innards of RISC OS work, as much as is documented in this book. As you can see here, we've done 56 of the 62 chapters, so we're getting pretty close now. That's 600 pages that people have worked on so far. So that's a great project you can get involved with if you're not more on the technical persuasion. And all contributions are welcome, whether it is screenshots, proofreading, or actually contributing content to this. And we'll aim to publish this either this year when it's finished or early next year and sell it. And we won't particularly be aiming to make a profit on this because it has been such a community project. We'll just pretty much sell it close to cost. Basic reference manual has been updated as well. That's on our stand. In fact, we just sold our last copy that we brought with us. This was a labour of love for one of the volunteers behind the scenes at RISC. So it's not directly a RISC person, but it's someone who helps closely. And probably the last 6 to 9 months, many of his evenings and weekends have been spent working on this. The last time this was published by Acorn was 25 years ago this month, and so lots of things have changed, believe it or not, in BASIC. So we have been working our way through a lot of Acorn's old books, like style guides and the reference manuals for the programming tools, the development tools. The basic reference manual was kind of next on our list. We're going up in terms of how difficult we think these books are to work on. And this one was one of the hard ones. But we're really pleased to have got there. It's something that a lot of people, I think, when they first started in the Acorn scene back in the 80s, this is probably one of their introductions to it. And certainly developers quite often started with a copy of the basic reference manual to know what it is. And we've updated our development tools, so for all the developers out there who have a copy, make sure you swing by our stand because you can get a half price update. And we are also selling, this was released at the Wakefield show, RISC OS Epic, I think it was the Wakefield show. But earlier this year we released the fast SD card for the Raspberry Pi, which combines all of the RISC OS software with all of the third-party NutPi software, and it's all on one card. And this allows us primarily to discontinue selling the NutPi as its own product, because it was getting extremely hard to find tiny little SD cards that were cheap. And that was pretty much it for me, a very quick roundup of what's been going on. I'll open the floor to questions. Yeah, so we have, we've gradually been releasing PDFs of the stuff that we've republished. So we've got the latest DDE has all of the developer manuals in PDF form. We're going to have the user guide. I would imagine we'd put the PDF of the user guide on the RISC OS, just download. And the basic manual, I would like to at some point release the PDF free of charge for that. But I don't want to kind of cut my legs off when we're trying to sell the printed copy. So probably, yeah, not long from now I can imagine us just releasing the PDF of the basic manual. Yeah. Any other questions?
So you've got the printed basic one the same now?
We do, yes. Yeah. Although we just sold out. But we have more, so we can, if you want to get one at the stand, we can post one out to you in the next day or so. Hi.
Do you have any updates on multi-core support?
So not directly, other than it is progressing. It's quite a monolithic job, as you can imagine. But yeah, we have a plan of how it's going to happen. Jeffrey Lee is obviously masterminding it, but he talks to us on a regular basis about it. All I say is it's still quite a long way from being something you'd want to start playing with yet. Hi.
Did you wait for a new version of Paint?
Sorry? Paint? Yes. So the Paint bounty is underway. There's various different steps in that's been agreed with the developer, and they've released the first two, I think. If I have internet here, which I probably don't, I can show you what that looks like. But it's lots of features like the new sprite file formats. Let's see. Yes, we do. Bounties, paint. This is where you go and look at the bounties. Improvements to paint. There's loads of stuff on sprite, improving the usability, undo, redo. I mean, how long have we had paint with no undo function? It's unbelievable. Hopefully we'll fix the thing where it crashes when you use sprite as a brush as well, because that's annoyed me since the beginning. Yeah, lots of improvements to scrolling. So you can see if you go into the rule websites, there is a section here called bounties, and if you just click on one of the bounties of interest, you'll see a description of what it is. But yeah, we've got a lot of steps left to do on Paint, but gradually every few months the guy pops up, does a bit more work, and then submits them, and we just publish them on the website.
If we can cover this quickly, what's the issue with zero-page protections?
I think so, yes.
There should be a version out available free for all machines within the next week.
Fantastic.
Quite get there in time for this show.
Great. But if we could have a quick chat at the stand afterwards, that would be really good. We still, we've not sold out those. Right. Cool. Okay. Any last questions?
Well, I see something that I suggested about multi-core support.
You did?
Is that something you could just explain where we are with that?
So the answer is it's underway, but it's a huge piece of work, and it's mostly Geoffrey Lee working on it. All I can say is that it's not at a point yet where anyone can play with it. So we're still figuring out how to. I think there's a very cut-down version of RISC OS kernel that can run on the other cores. Gradually trying to identify some of the SWI calls that you can make on the other cores that are safe to make. But there's quite a lot more to do yet before it'll be at a point where anyone can usefully play with it.
What would you see as the real benefit of having that when it's finally done? Bearing in mind how much more efficient RISC OS is than
Mostly,
other operating systems.
yeah, mostly performance, I think, and the fact that you've got 4 cores on the Raspberry Pi nowadays, and 3 of them
It's silly not to be using all of them.
they're sat there twiddling their thumbs, 3 of them. So it's a bit silly. It would be nice, you know, if you wanted to decode video on 1 core or something, you could just do that, and it wouldn't affect your desktop experience, the performance of that.
I'm afraid I haven't read through documentation on the site. Applications to create on their own threads that are very
I think there will be, yes. Yes. I can't say whether it is or not. I haven't asked Geoffrey recently whether it's pass.
Okay.
I thought I heard about a year ago that there was a very primitive version of RISC OS which supported user applications using other cores on the condition that they didn't attempt to pull into the operating system.
There's a very long thread here. That's presumably a better way to find us. Yeah. Come over to the stand. I know Ben and Rob have been closer to Geoffrey on this than I have in recent months, so they've probably got a better answer for you. Right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thanks a lot.